Welcome back to the program. I am Adeshawa Josh. Before I take you through the remaining part of this bulletin, let's take you through the stories that made headlines over the weekend.
It was a weekend of decision-making for the citizens of Tanzania, Ivory Coast and DR Congo. In Tanzania, presidential and parliamentary elections held on Sunday, October the 25th, as the ruling party looked set to win. It was a tight race between the ruling party and the opposition, according to election observers, and any dispute in the outcome of the election billed as the tightest race in Tanzania's post-independence history could raise tensions in a nation which has been relatively stable since British rule ended in 1961. Late on Sunday, Chadema Party, part of the opposition coalition led by Lowassa, said police raided its vote tallying center in Tanzania's commercial capital Dar es Salaam and arrested opposition officials. Counting has started in Ivory Coast's Sunday's poll, but the Election Commission extended voting after logistical problems in many areas delayed the start of the vote, seen as crucial to turning the page on a decade-long political crisis and a civil war in 2011. President Alassane Ouattara, whose leadership has helped the West African nation re-emerge as a rising economic star on the continent, is facing a divided opposition and is heavily favored to win re-election. However, there were concerns that a boycott by part of the opposition, coupled with voter apathy, could result in low turnout. More than 6 million Ivorians registered to vote at some 20,000 polling stations nationwide. Voting, which was officially said to have begun at 7 a.m., was delayed in many areas by the late arrival of materials, including ballots and ballot boxes. Conan Bani pulled out of the vote, saying the process was stacked in Ouattara's favor. Polling stations in pro-Gbagbo villages in the former president's home region around the southwestern cocoa hub of Ganoa were devoid of voters. Provisional results from Sunday's vote are expected to be announced from Tuesday, October the 27th. Finally, in Congo Republic, citizens voted in a referendum to determine whether 71-year-old President Denis Sassou Nguesso can legally stand for a third consecutive term in next year's election. Sassou Nguesso is the latest long-serving African president to pursue legal action to prolong his grip on power. Several other such bids have provoked violence, and 4 died in Congo last week when security forces opened fire on protesters. Opposition allegedly called for a boycott, and lack of voting materials combined to reduce voting to a trickle at many polling stations in the capital. In some places, the only voters were members of the security forces, but that did not appear to deter some who were eager to vote. Sassou Nguesso has ruled the oil-producing country for 31 of the past 36 years and is expected to stand if permitted. He won disputed elections in 2002 and 2009, and under the present constitution, term limits and his age bar him from running again.
Well, those are the stories that made the headlines in Africa over the weekend. 3 major universities in South Africa remain closed as some students continue to stage protests. Well, some South African students are continuing a university fee protest despite the president agreeing to freeze increases. Which university in Johannesburg, where the protest began, the University of Cape Town and the University of Western Cape remain closed. The protest started last week when university management announced a 10 to 12% increase in fees, while the government had expected an end to protests after President Jacob Zuma agreed a 0% increase on tuition. I am now being joined on Network Africa by Curtis Richardson and, of course, Lulama Shongwe. They are both from the African Union Student Alliance. They join me live from Pretoria. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much.
You both are still protesting alongside some other university students. Is President Zuma's announcement of a no tuition fee hike last week not binding across all the universities?
It has been binding across all universities, but the main issue is that the memorandums which were handed to the different universities were obviously university specific, and they contained more demands than just the no fee increment that we initially started with. So that's why protests continued at the University of Pretoria this morning, because we wanted the other 12 demands. We had 13 demands, and we wanted the other 12 demands to be addressed by the university.
So it could be true to say that some of the demands were met, but there's a larger issue that needs to be resolved between the students and the university institutions.
Well, I understand all the memorandum of given to university management at your university during that meeting with President Zuma. There were 13 points that needed to be addressed, but reportedly were not all addressed. Is that the reason why you're protesting right now?
Yes, that was the reason why we were protesting right now. As of about an hour ago, actually, we met with our Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, and she conceded actually to all 13 demands and more, which means there were 19 demands tabled and 19 demands which were fulfilled.
So what are these demands? If one of them is no fee hike, what are the remaining 12? Why is it so difficult for President Zuma and the university authorities to agree to them?
I can't really answer why it was so difficult for the university and for the president to address them urgently, but some of the demands we had specifically at the University of Pretoria related to the cost of living in a residence, which is the school housing that's available here, the cost of eating on campus, the cost that we incur in terms of printing, basically from the university, things like that. They were all actually basically socio-economic issues that we had.
So if you think about the difficulty that which the universities found with finding resolutions concerning these memorandums, it was the fact that it was mostly issues dealing with the financing available to students. So often students have felt that they had to carry the entire burden of financing their education, and now they were looking for more support from the actual universities.
So are you optimistic that your demands will be granted? Look at this scenario. A few universities have backed down, and you appear to be just a very few people demanding for more. Do you see your demands being addressed?
We were very optimistic, and it turns out that we were right. We had all 13 of our demands met today by our Vice Chancellor, and we added more demands during our conversation with her and questions arising from the floor of students who were present. So all of our demands have been met. Actually, more than what we asked for has been met, and we didn't have to compromise. It just goes to show that if you play your cards right and you put pressure on the university, then things that were apparently not available will suddenly become available to you.
And furthermore, the fact that some universities have not cleared out from protesting and also have shut down today, it's just a sign that there might be individual issues at those universities that have not been resolved with the management.
So in essence, where do you see this lead? How do you see this resolved, and how soon do you want it resolved?
I can't speak for other universities. I know that there's also a national call for free education soon, rather than later. So that's an ongoing issue, and I actually don't see it coming to an end until the government really directly addresses that issue and starts to speak to us about a plan going forward in terms of free education. In terms of the University of Pretoria, we've officially put our tools down in terms of protest, and we'll be going back to school as effective of tomorrow, Tuesday.
Okay, so this is obviously looking like it's a direction you have all decided to go. Let's see how the president and every other concerned authorities respond to your demands.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Curtis Richardson and Lulama Shangwe, they are from African Union Student Alliance, speaking for most of the students in the University of Pretoria. Let's take another short break on Network Africa.